Today I'll be surprisingly speaking about the Mafia, specifically the Ndrangheta in Italy and Canada. An eye-opening and interesting story, or rather investigation, that took place and opened a can of worms. To begin with, on January 18, 2018, at 8 p.m., Carmelo Muia was driving his electric bike, his usual means of transportation, in and around Siderno, Italy. Muia was the boss of the Muia clan, one closely aligned to the powerful Commisso clan. As he pulled the bike outside of his house, he was shot 7 times and would die on his way to the hospital. Muia's brother Vincenzo stepped in as boss of the clan following this incident. What happened to his brother naturally weighed heavily on his mind. And we'll get more into his recorded conversations. But one of the things that he had to say was, if I don't know who killed him, how could I sleep peacefully? How could I sleep? Vincenzo Muia felt the answers to his questions lie not in Italy, but in Canada. And for this reason, he planned on taking a trip there. At the time, Italian investigators were keeping close tabs on Muia, hoping to glean information regarding his brother's murder. And through their close monitoring of him, they learned of his upcoming travel plans. On March 31st, 2019, Muia and a member of the clan, Giuseppe Gregoracci, traveled to Toronto, Canada. They were picked up at Toronto's Pearson International Airport by Luigi Vesio, a funeral home owner in the Greater Toronto area. The 3 men traveled to Vesio's house, where the Fiumeni brothers, Angelo and Cosimo, were waiting for them. Both brothers were originally from Italy, but fled after facing charges of mafia association. Angelo Fiumeni is considered to be a high-ranking Ndrangheta member whose reach expands back to Siderno, and the Fiumeni clan was also allied with the Commissos in Siderno, and it was the 2 brothers that Muia specifically came to see. He believed the Canadians not only would be able to confirm who killed his brother, but grant him permission to retaliate. Authorities in Italy requested permission from the Canadian officials to allow them to intercept the private communications of Vincent Muia while he was in Canada. Surprisingly, the Italians' request was denied, but they went ahead with software installed on Muia's phone and intercepted his conversations anyway. Essentially, Muia's phone became an open mic. These illegally obtained recordings have recently become the focal point for Vincenzo Di Maria's immigration case. Di Maria is also believed to be a high-ranking member. And in April 2018, the Canadian Border Services Agency, also known as the CBSA, issued a deportation order for Di Maria. The recordings mention Di Maria, who was in prison at the time of Muia's visit. But in the case documents, the CBSA claims the recordings help prove he's a member of the Ndrangheta and are using it as evidence to deport him. On a side note, both Muia and Gregoracci are cousins of Di Maria. Presently, Di Maria's case is before the Immigration and Refugee Board. His lawyers are arguing that the recordings amount to foreign interference, and since they were obtained illegally, they should be thrown out as evidence. Regarding the tapes, Di Maria's immigration lawyer, David Orman, stated they didn't just do it without asking. He's speaking about the Italians. They asked, they were told no, and they still did it. An interesting fact, the Canadians refused the Italian investigators' request. However, they're still using the tapes in Canadian court cases, such as Di Maria's, displaying a double standard. So while the Italians were eavesdropping, York's regional police were running a simultaneous investigation on Fiumeni and his clan, the very people Muia came to see. Muia was overheard saying, when you cut weeds out of the grass, if you don't get them all, they will grow back. When you do things, you have to do them right, insinuating that they killed his brother, but left him alive to avenge his death. Nevertheless, if Muia thought that he would receive some answers and direction, he was mistaken. And although he was booked to stay for 2 weeks, his tone displayed his frustration. I don't know what we have to do here for the next 12 days. I could leave tomorrow. Muia's Canadian vacation was more about formalities than brass tacks. There was dinner, exchanging of greetings from Siderno and Toronto, and while at Luigi Vesio's house, Vesio discussed facial skin cream from France called La Mer. The Canadians, the Siderno Group, were truly trying to just entertain their guests, avoiding discussing Carmelo Muia's murder or what his brother Vincenzo should do about it. Muia, in all honesty, took a major risk by going about what he was doing. In most instances, when a murder takes place and someone, in this case a brother, starts going around asking questions, people become concerned enough to take it as a threat. Moya not only did this in Italy, but in another country as well, and he's lucky nobody killed him. For the Italian investigators, the meeting and recordings would reveal something of greater interest, a shift in the Siderno Group's power structure, a name given because its members predominantly hailed from Siderno, Calabria. It's been the common belief that families from Siderno operating in Canada have always been under the control and answered to the leading bosses in Siderno. However, the Ndrangheta in Canada have become so powerful that they not only make decisions in Canada, but back in Siderno as well. Italian court documents state the following. The governing body of the Siderno branch no longer operates only in Calabria, transmitting orders abroad, but also does so directly on Canadian soil to give it a more effective and efficient command structure. For a better understanding, if Italian authorities were to arrest the bosses in Siderno, bosses of equal power in Canada can keep the business of the Siderno Group up and operating. According to the highly esteemed Anna Sergi, doctor, professor, and expert on criminology, and the Ndrangheta, this shows that Canada's mobsters are more strategically powerful than was thought before. From the wiretaps, it appears that, differently from the situation portrayed in previous investigations, the Chamber of Control in Toronto can extend its strategic resonance to Siderno as well, for the first time reversing the order. Please remember to like this video if you haven't already, as it helps with the algorithm. So hit the like button. And for anyone who wants to show their appreciation for videos like this, or to help keep this podcast going, you can do so by the Super Thanks icon down below, or the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. When Moya returned to Italy, he ran into some legal trouble. Moya, Gregoracci, and other clan members were convicted for Mafia association in 2020. Moya was eventually acquitted on appeal, and Gregoracci would commit suicide in prison. Moya's Canadian visit helped Italian authorities make 12 arrests in Italy, including a person born in Toronto, Canada. Their counterparts in Canada conducted a large-scale Toronto area Mafia arrest, which included the Fiomenis. Moya is currently back in prison and serving 5 years for extortion and weapon charges. He never did get to avenge his brother's death, and the Siderno Group still remains one of the Ndrangheta's most powerful in both Italy and Canada.